Okay, can you introduce yourself?
My name is Jess Ausinheiler.
And where do you work?
I work
Or
at
what do you
Monitor
do?
Institute, which is a part of Deloitte Consulting LLP.
And what do you do there?
I am a manager. So I help think about how to structure consulting engagements and research related to social innovation and philanthropy.
Excellent. And why did you decide to participate in Changemaker Bootcamp?
Well, the first reason is that I wanted to get to know Eugene a little bit better, and get connected to his network of people, because I now I live in the Bay Area, and I thought that it would be a great way to meet people who are doing really cool things and are thinking in ways that are complementary to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the second reason is that I am working on my own skills as a facilitator and as a change maker, and as a person who helps create change in the world. And so I thought it would be a great place to learn how to do that openly and with other people.
And what were your expectations when you first decided, I'm going to participate in this strange thing that Eugene has been telling me about? What did you think you were getting yourself into?
You know what's interesting is that I did not have time to think about what I was getting myself into. It was sort of a decision that I made over dinner one night. And then I thought about the scheduling and the logistics of it, and I worked that out, and then I figured I didn't think about it again until I showed up on Tuesday. And so I think the expectations were pretty limited. Not low, just limited. I knew it'd be awesome, I just didn't know what to expect.
And so how was the experience for you? What was it like?
Yeah, it was, I think, the experience, I feel like I've learned a lot that I've already applied to my work. So for example, role-playing is already an exercise that I'm going to do with my clients. I can't do the replay because we don't have enough time, but there's definitely a role-play and debrief. And the questions is something that I am applying to another exercise that I'm creating. The power dynamics is something that I'm constantly speaking about at home and with my friends, and I'm constantly aware of it. So the practices we've done have permeated, are infused into other parts of my life, and I think in ways that are very beneficial. I forgot what the question was.
Just how was the experience?
Yeah, so the experience was one that was not limited. It seems like a lot longer because the exercises were sort of went beyond the classroom. It was online, and then it was in my own life, and I reflected on them in ways that I couldn't even imagine before I started the bootcamp, right? Like, there were no expectations. I didn't have time to think about it. But once I had that 2 hours to think about it, then I could apply it to other parts of my life. It also felt a little disjoint because I was in every single bootcamp, and it was a little, I think the having different people come in was a little disjoint for me, because there wasn't that continuity. So at the end, I felt very close to one person, and I'd actually been matched with him throughout the sessions, intentional. I don't know if it was intentional or not.
It was intentional, yeah.
And so I was able to give him more feedback, and I was able to get to know him more than the other participants. Particularly those, so there's one participant who I think is very similar to me, and it would have been great to get to know her more as a way to, very similar, and yet like both of us are very strong-minded, and so it would have been nice to have an opportunity to speak and interact with her more throughout the session as a way to practice more group dynamics and to get comfortable with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say was your main takeaway from the whole experience? If you had to just latch on to one or two things, what would those things be?
You know, the power of a community of people who are constantly talking about their work and their practice. And not their work content, their work practice. Part of it is that I'm a process junkie, and so I appreciate doing that. Part of it is that I feel like sometimes in your workplace, people aren't as open. I mean, I work with people who are very open, and even then there's a limit to how much you can say and comment on each other. And so I think that creating intentional opportunities to practice where it's okay to fuck up is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like
no, that's
a
fantastic.
safe, just to practice. Like so sometimes I feel like when you're at work, unless you intentionally, and I've set up practice exercises at work where we practice facilitating or we practice a design. We actually do that, right? But oftentimes when you're at work, even if you're working with friends, you're on, right? It's game time.
Yeah.
You're trying to make your point of view. You're trying to sell your idea.
Yeah.
You're trying to vet your idea, but you're on because it's real.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And what Bootcamp did is it set up a simulation environment. Yeah, it was actually interesting. I'm totally rambling.
No,
here,
this is great.
Somebody, what's his name? Oh my God. I have his face.
The boot
High
camp
school,
participant?
Berkeley guy. I can't remember anyways. Super intelligent, fascinating, quirky man who I was asking for opinions about an MBA program. And he said that MBAs create highly refined simulation environments of the real business setting where you can practice and become a better business person. Highly refined simulations is what he said. Highly refined simulation environments. Like, you pay $200,000 so they can simulate an environment for you and bring people who are familiar with the settings and the content, and you practice and you practice and you practice. And that's kind of what we did. We created highly refined simulation environments where we get to practice. And that's kind of cool.
It's interesting because we had this conversation at one of our previous sessions about clothing. You were the one who brought that up, right? The power suits. And it just listening to you talk right now, it just kind of struck me that when we work out, we change into our workout clothes,
Yeah.
right? So it feels like it's different. But if you're showing up to work in your regular clothes and then you come into a quote-unquote practice environment, it's going to feel like you're still on
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. So it's almost like, okay, next time I'm going to have all my boot campers show up in sweats and see if that changes anything.
It's funny. Yeah. It'll be a little hard, I think, at 2 to 3 or 3 to 5 in the
I don't
afternoon.
know. Might be logistically challenging.
Yeah,
That's
but-
an interesting idea.
Yeah.
You touch on this a little bit in terms of your own experience about having additional people kind of come a couple of sessions afterwards. Was there anything else that you felt like could have been improved?
I mean, you're pulling this out of me, right? But if I had to say a couple things, I like continuity, and I feel like every session we started a new page. But it might have been nice to sort of have a log of like, this is what we did last time. Like, we're building on it, and this, like a reminder, because it's sort of, it's all sort of murky in my head. So I don't know if it matters. But like if you have an exercise regimen, you have a log, and every day you sort of fill in your log.
Check marks.
Yeah, and I feel like what we got were a bunch of loose paper. And I think that's fine. Like, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. I use the blog as my log, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I don't know how to do that or what, but that might be one thing. And then it may have been nice to start before the boot camp with, or to do some kind of social event to get people to know each other better at some point. I feel like, whenever I start a project, it's like customary to go out for dinner or something, or do something together. So maybe maybe like an outdoor team building exercise that we could learn and then take on and do in our own setting. Like something outside that helps create the team before you start.
Okay.
I think that might be interesting. Like we did at the end, but at the beginning, sort of like book endings. Might be interesting.
Okay.
I've never done an outdoor team building exercise. It sort of reminds me of the Flight of the Conchords. Do you know that song? It's business time.
No, I don't know that song.
We're gonna watch
I
it
might have.
after
Yeah.
this.
Okay.
Anyways, it's entirely inappropriate. But so yeah, something like that. Instead of jumping right into business, sort of recognizing the importance of the community and building that community through a learning activity.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the hardest question.
Sure.
Right. How would you describe Changemaker Bootcamp to other people?
Oh, highly refined simulation environments for change makers.
Excellent. That's a nice tagline.
Yeah.
I might have to steal that.
Sure.
Yeah. Would you do it again?
I think I would. Yeah, I think I would.
Would you recommend it to others?
Oh, absolutely. And I think the hardest part is it's a big time commitment.
Mm-hmm.
It's a small time commitment because, like, I commute 2 hours a day, right? Like, yeah, I commute 2 hours a day.
Right.
So I commute 10 hours a week.
Right.
That's just 2 hours for my own practice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that kind of like meditation, it's hard to get people to like buy into the value of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you tell them if they asked? If you said, I really think you should take boot camp. I said, why should I take it? What would you say?
Well, I tell them it's a space for practice and for reflection, with a group of people who enjoy practice and reflection and who are trying to create change in the world and in their organizations. And I would only recommend it to people who are interested in growth. You know, like, if you're just average and you want to stay average and you're not ambitious, like, you really shouldn't waste your time. And there are some people like that, right? There are some people who are like that, and if you're not particularly reflective, I wouldn't recommend it either. So I think I would be targeted in who I ask, and then if they still have doubts, then I would say, come to the next monthly meeting with me and my team, and you can check it out. Like, give them a low stakes, low barrier opportunity to engage, and then ask for permission to bring them.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Do you have any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to say that you haven't had the opportunity to say so far?
It's funny because when you ask me that question, the thing that pops to mind is just like the faces of all of the other boot campers. And I think that's sort of an indicative thing, right? Like, anything else you want to say, well, let me think of all the people that have touched me and who I've touched over the last couple of months. And I think it would be really interesting to make boot camp more personal. And by that I mean, we talked a lot about our challenges, and some of the challenges were very personal. So there is sort of this desire to make it more personal. Anecdote. Was it Marie? I think it was. She had mentioned a couple of like off-the-cuff comments about her personal life.
Right.
That I immediately connected with some things that she said about her challenge and her professional life. And I shared that connection with her, and it was really enlightening. But I was only able to do that because she had shared an off-the-cuff comment about her personal life. And so there's a question about how much to bring personal experiences into boot camp as part of the exercises. I think the power questions got at that. The power questions and the hard conversations. And so I think having more such exercises that involve personal life and deep assumptions we have and personal like self-perceptions that we have would be an interesting twist that would enable us to get to know each other better during the 6 weeks, and to reflect on the relationship between personal and professional in a way that meeting design exercises may not. right? And I understand that there's a balance, but yeah, I don't have an answer. It's just a thought that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew, I'm tired.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure.